What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are taking a break from chick sexing to talk about A24's 2020 release, Minari. I had to be very careful how I worded that. I was like, I don't know if this is like accurate, but I think it is. So
I didn't read the notes before we started, and so that was the first time I knew that was coming. That was awesome. Yeah, that was great.
Quick.
A semi-autobiographical take on Chung's upbringing. The plot follows a family of South Korean immigrants who tried to make it in the rural United States during the 1980s. Warning, spoilers are ahead for Minari, the 2020 Best Picture nominee from A24. This is really exciting. We put out another vote this week, and this is something we did last week as well. How we got, picked 8th grade to cover on the pod. Put out another poll this week. We did Minari. You wanted Minari. I put On the Rocks because I wanted a Sofia Coppola film. And then we put How to Talk to Girls at Parties because that's been suggested to us in the past. 50% of people voted for Minari. So here we are, Ben. We're talking about Minari. We're going to talk general thoughts. We're going to get into everything. First and foremost, I just want to say, how come you didn't prepare me? How come you didn't warn me what was coming? I was blind, and it was so much.
It is a lot, and I think that's just the best way to go into it, is just completely blind. Like, it is such a powerful movie, just wonderful performance by Steven Yeun. Like, I did not expect the first time I saw this, and continually, but I just didn't expect to get hit as hard as I did. So it's a great movie. Also, I just want to say, for the 50% of you that voted to watch this movie, I picked this movie in the A24 draft and somehow ended up with 3% of the vote. So I don't know where the fuck you guys were when I picked Minari. And
they
I wasn't
abandoned
getting
you.
your vote. Yeah, they abandoned me. It's oh, Minari, no way. And then it's oh yeah, actually I should talk about that. So anyways, I'm coming back for redemption on our next draft.
Look, this is how it is. People voted for it now because they hadn't seen it when you drafted it, and they're like, "Oh shit, they got to cover it on the pod."
Yeah.
And then next time when we go another draft, Minari, people are like, "Yes, that's the one."
I'm coming for the title, Jade.
Coming for it.
Keep it warm for me.
Yeah. This is an excellent movie. Nominated for 6 Academy Awards, which is absolutely impressive. This was kind of right before I really got into movies. And I remember Yoo Jun-yoon winning Best Supporting Actress and being like, that's incredible. She looks super cute. And her Oscar reel that was 15 seconds was really good. And I really liked it. But this, I was kind of outside of the hype. Did you watch this during that time period? Because I know this is the second time you've seen this movie.
Yeah. I watched it before then. So Lee Isaac Chung, who this is based off of, he and I graduated from the same college, the University of Utah.
Ben, you just dropped that shit on me mid-pod? That's insane.
Right now. So I think obviously we have taken very different trajectories on our life, but we are both Utes. So I was super excited to see this. I think it's a great movie, and I'm always hyped for the Oscars. So as much as I can prep for it, I try to watch as much as I can. So I think this, fell into that. Her acceptance speech was just beautiful and charming and awesome. She's fantastic. And I just want to say, throughout the whole campaign, the awards thing, Alan Kim might be the cutest kid that's ever existed.
Oh my
He
I
was
know.
just so nice. I forget what it was, if it was the Golden Globes or something, but he I think he started crying, when they were because I think he was still doing it over Zoom or whatever. So he was at home, something like that. But I think he got nominated. I don't remember all the details, but he was just such a cute kid. It's so fun to see him on the awards trail. And he was great in this movie too. This whole cast is fantastic, but he was awesome.
Yeah, he's special. So it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Score, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor in Steven Yeun, and Best Supporting Actress, which it did win for Yoon Jun-yoon. And that was incredible. She was the first Korean to win an Academy Award for acting, which is insane. She's 70 years old and just is phenomenal in this movie. I will say, in talking about the Oscars and talking about the future in the Academy, stay tuned to the pod. We've got some special stuff upcoming. I don't want to give away too much, but
not too much.
Stay tuned. 2023 is going to be really fun here on the podcast. Okay, let's get into this. Let's start talking about it. We'll do True Cinemas and just work our way through this movie. Because I finished it. I did split it up into 2 nights, which I feel like is not the right way to go about this movie in particular. But I will preface this and I will say, Ben, you have graciously, and I think I've mentioned it here on the pod before, you've graciously allowed me access to your almost 1,000 movie library on Vudu, which is incredible. And I went to go fire up Minari on Vudu. You have it. And I clicked play. And I will say, someone, I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying someone on your account paused it or ended it or stopped watching it at an exceptionally pivotal moment when the farm catches on fire. And that was the first thing I saw. And I immediately paused it and I was like, fucking, oh my God, I can't believe I saw this. And I rewound all the way. Now you would think that I would be like, okay, I already know how this is going. Like their farm's going to burn. So what? It made it worse because I knew it was coming. I didn't know when. I didn't know how. I didn't know what was going to take place in the time to get there. And I had no idea the trajectory of the family and the couple and the grandma and everything was going to happen. So you made my experience much more intense and honestly, way more emotionally impacting. So thank you and not thank you at the same time. Yeah,
exactly. I'm trying to think, like, I think that would have made Enemy such a more different watch if I had seen the last clip of the spider and then just like watching the whole movie. I'm like, wait, when the fuck does this thing show up? Like, I feel like that would have been the same thing. I just would have been like on pins and needles waiting for this thing to happen. So that makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, first True Cinema moment, moving into their house. This is obviously pivotal. They're moving in here and it is something the father wants. It is not something the mother wants. And you get that message very clearly right away. Did that like kind of emotional divide, did that work for you right out of the gate? You kind of see the split kind of wants of them right there?
I think it does for sure because it kind of helps create some tension while they're like the whole family's embarking on this new adventure. It's not necessarily like copacetic between everybody. You know, there's like a little bit of the difference in how they feel about this and how they see it going. Obviously Stephen Yeun's just very I don't know if he's hard-headed or determined, however you want to like, but he's like, I'm gonna have a farm, like this is, you know, what we're gonna do kind of thing. And I just still think of the visual of her like having to be helped up into the house before they have the steps built. So like super cool scene. And I think the dynamic is great.
Yeah, and this is really kind of in that air, like that aura of Last Black Man in San Francisco, of like the A24 that you've been talking about here on the podcast recently, of like they sit with it and they give you very cinematic visuals and the score is absolutely mesmerizing. This really falls into that category like right away. So I was really impressed with that, and I love that about this, and especially considering the setting is very cinematic in general, and you know, and kind of what you can get from the earth and around you, and faith and determination, all of these like very lofty themes that it's trying to kind of tackle and talk about. The next one on the list here I have arguing over the tornado watch. This is really the first moment where we're like, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Like maybe this is really splitting their marriage, and they've obviously had fights like this before, and the kids have had to deal with this before. They have a coping mechanism of making the paper airplanes, and that say don't fight, and like throwing it at them. And that's exceptionally sad and really hard to watch, knowing that this is the dad's dream. This is what he wants to do, and this is what he considers needs to be done for the family.
Yeah, it's like, it's a real testament, I guess, to the storytelling and how everyone's like intention is good, but it's like, how do you go about accomplishing that? I think, you know, the dad's wanting to like provide for the family, all that kind of stuff, but the mom's also maybe being more pragmatic about it. It's like, what if this isn't successful kind of thing, you know, like, is this not the place for us to be? And then just seeing the kids, how they're dealing with it all. Like, I'm a child of divorce, but luckily I was 2 when it happened, so I just kind of grew up with it, you know. So, but I can't imagine having like grown up in the family where you're seeing, you know, this kind of like tension between them. Obviously, doesn't necessarily lead to that, but it's really interesting to see, like you said, their coping mechanisms and how they deal with all this. Yeah,
childhood divorce club, like virtual high five, me and you. That's super exciting. But my parents divorced a couple years after I got out of high school, actually, right when I was about ready to get married. So I had a very different experience than you with that, and I kind of grew up. So I think this scene in particular, I was like, wow, I kind of like, I'm sure that I blacked a lot of it out, like as a coping mechanism, but I vaguely remember like taking my brothers into the room and just being like, this is where we're living until this is done. And so having to manage something like that. The first church visit, this is really the first time we see how they are assimilating to Arkansas, especially like a Ronald Reagan era Arkansas, in which farmers are the kind of like holy ground of America. Why is your face so flat and you're so cute? Calling the mom cute, which is cute, but also really horrific. Like that is really terrible. And them just kind of like getting ingrained. And we see here the grandma takes the $100 bill out. I wanted to call that. I thought that was really, really interesting, but also really just kind of a testament to her personality and like where she stands in this dynamic of the family. I liked this scene a lot.
Yeah, it's really good, really powerful. Again, like definitely, fish out of water kind of situation of just like going to a new place. I believe Lee Isaac Chung's family moved to somewhere in Colorado, something like that. But I can imagine, the welcome or the not so welcome embrace of these people was very similar because it's the 80s and you're a Korean family coming to America, just immigrating and trying to make your way. And I don't know. I just can't imagine what that would have been like and what that would have taken. So these scenes really kind of hit it home for us.
Yeah, for real. I wanted to call one out because I have a very specific question for you regarding this scene. It's about halfway through. We realize that a major theme about this movie is finding water, is kind of like finding that source that'll kind of make everything work, right? What is that magic thing that makes everything better? And this scene when the wife is washing Jacob's hair in the bath, and Jacob kind of stops her and basically says like, if the farm fails, you can do whatever you want. You can leave with the kids if that's what you want to do. And then we get a very locked on perspective of what she is thinking at that moment in time and what Monica might be considering. How did you take this scene? Because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this might happen a lot sooner than I personally anticipated. I think she's taking this, not necessarily bait, but I think she's taking it and might just run with it like right now.
Yeah, I think it definitely came across that she was considering it because, again, like everyone has their best intentions for the family, but hers is more like, do we take a risk? Do we put our livelihood at risk on this thing that may not work out? Like we have other human beings we're in charge of. Like, is this a thing that we can do? And so when he's like, if it, you can leave, whatever, it's like, all right, maybe that's just like the safer thing to do. But you trust your partner, hopefully, and it all kind of works out as it needs to. But I definitely think she was like considering it without a doubt.
Yeah, and it's really, again, that theme throughout the movie of like self-interest versus the interest of your family and those that you care for. And Jacob really finds himself in the middle of this. Like where does that line kind of blend, right? Like where can you chase your dreams while also supporting your children and their future and trying to change a generational kind of break in the system? Lots of things like that. And I always love, especially this movie, but I always love movies that kind of take multiple generations and put them under one house or one specific setting, because then you see how everybody operates. And we haven't even talked about the relationship between David and the grandma and how they warm up to each other and they become pivotal for one another and how they survive and how they truly deal with everything that is going on around them. I just have a couple more. When Jacob loses the order, when a store or restaurant calls him and is like, you know what, we're backing out of the order. He goes out and he kicks all of his boxes. This is really the moment that we see.
Yeah.
He's not okay with failure, and he takes everything exceptionally hard. And Paul is out there. I just want to shout out Paul. This guy's an OG. Honestly, I thought he was really weird at first, and then I was like, this guy's he's kind of like maybe not the most sane among them, but like he is like I don't know. He has some kind of like special ingredient about him that I really grew to like as the movie went on.
Yeah, Paul. I mean, played by Will Patton. He's got some real interesting moves, I guess, or however you want to like put it in this movie. Like again, like carrying that cross every Sunday, all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of, I know he's in the recent Halloween movies.
Okay.
He's in Armageddon. People might recognize him. I think I recognize him most from Gone in 60 Seconds because I think it's my favorite movie that he's in.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's a great scene. This feels like, I'd have to go back and look at it, but this almost feels like it would be the Stephen Yeun clip they show after he, they announce his name kind of thing. Cause this is like, it's powerful stuff.
They just change it like that on you. Oh, we still got some time, Jacob. But, we'll find someplace else. It ain't rotting on the vine.
Korean people, big city, you never trust them.
Well, just forget about Dallas. We don't forget about Dallas. There's always Oklahoma City. Or Memphis, we go to Memphis.
I'm still paying for water.
Well, take it to... Oh, it's okay. It's going to be all right.
I have to go to work, okay? Let's go to work.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah, it really is. And again, like that overarching theme of faith, right? Paul finds his faith very strictly in God. The two kids end up going to church. That's kind of their coping mechanism. Jacob is always on the farm, always choosing the farm, always looking for water. And then, those types of situations and how every single character has their own kind of thing that they go to. The conversation at the very end after Jacob, and we're skipping forward a ways here, but we can kind of fill in the blanks as we go. There's a lot of small moments that we're just not going to talk about. The conversation where Monica and Jacob finally decide that it is over. And I didn't know that this was coming, but I definitely had a feeling the moment they pull into that parking lot and Jacob grabs the box of produce, and then Monica is like, "What are you doing? Leave that in the car." And he's like, "Fine, I'll go park downstairs." I was like, okay, cool. Like that's the moment he chose the farm over anything else in his life. And I knew that it could really only go south from that moment on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's setting it up, I know this is a spoiler pod, but it's setting up for that end of the movie, you know, where he has to choose family over the farm. And I think it's a great example of that, so it does a great job of foreshadowing and all kinds of stuff, like what's going to happen with their relationship and their family, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that conversation between them, it takes its time. It unfolds throughout time, which I think is really impressive and really needed for a conversation like that. It's heavy. It packs in a lot. And what is so telling as well, at the very end of that, they're both in the moment. They're both feeling kind of what is happening. And then the shop owner comes out and is like, "Oh, you haven't left yet?" And immediately Jacob flips and he goes, "No, we're just leaving right now." Like, whatever. And again, he chooses the farm. He could have ignored him. He could have said, "Don't bother us." He could have said, in a different tone of voice. He had a lot of choices in that moment. And again, he chose the business end and the business perspective. And then the end of the film, really kind of the final 20 minutes, the final 15 minutes, Grandma sets the farm ablaze. Man, dude, this was intense. This is heavy. Yeah. And what I admire the most about this movie, it swells. It creeps up on you. It does not hit you with the emotional kind of levity right away from the gate. It kind of leads itself into that, and you kind of almost get seduced into this very methodical life of them on the farm. And then things go really, really south, and you get punched with this massive dilemma that Jacob is now suffering and this family is now caught in, only to find them laying on the ground all next to each other the very same way that Jacob had proposed the very first night on the farm. This shit hit me, dude. It was so good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a heartbreaking scene, with the farm catching on fire, with the grandma having suffered a stroke and not really being able to communicate. Then we get David, who has this heart condition, then running, it's there's so many emotional beats that are hit here. It pays off so well. And leading all the way up to the end of the movie when they find the Minari and realize okay, maybe we can still make this work. It makes sense why this got nominated for Best Picture and why I took it for the wild card in the A24 draft, and you guys should have voted for me.
Now we get it. Now I understand why you took it for wild card. Yeah, and that is something that's talked about throughout the entire movie is this farm is their fresh start. And then we kind of keep hearkening back to the people before and the family that was there before, they went broke and the guy, blew out his brains. And like, we get these little hints here and there of like, this is not actually a fresh start. This is just a perceived fresh start in terms of Jacob's mind. Now they actually have a fresh start. They literally actually do with the Minari, which the grandma planted, which is sublime. True cinema moment here. What are you going to pick, Ben? What are you going to pick? Because I need you to vamp for a second so I can figure out what I'm going to pick.
Well, I don't know if I have a ton of stuff to vamp on. It's more of just like a favorite, almost like scene or clip or whatever. It's Jacob is digging the ditch and David's there, and it's them like screaming and just like yelling. I love that. I like kind of like the primal connection that they had through that. I think there's so much going on there with Jacob like trying to believe in the farm and support his family, all that kind of stuff. There's this movie is just like layers, man. Like it's just like so much stuff going on, which I think is fantastic. So I really enjoyed that scene quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm going to take one out of your book and I'm going off script. I'm going to go with the scene in which a Korean song plays on the television and the grandma basically says, do you guys remember when you got married? This was your song. It made you feel all lovey-dovey, quote unquote. And I'm a sucker for two very specific things that happen in this scene. Number one, when the song plays and then the song continues over the next scene or the next visual, bleeding into something really kind of, hammering home the point of like how important this song is and how important this moment is. I love that. But I also love, and this is why I love La La Land so much and Before Sunrise and all of these movies, the what could have beens, the what we did have situation of the past. They had a happy marriage. And it's talked about later in the movie of like, do you remember we moved to America so we could make each other happy, so we could do this together. Yeah. But we're only happy together when things are going right, and we continue to fight when they're not. And this like whole juxtaposition of they're supposed to have a better life in America because Korea was so difficult, but it's turning out that America is more difficult. And Korea, they had a song that made them feel lovey-dovey. They don't have that here. So that's definitely my pick. I had a runner-up of Paul declining the cigarettes, and he goes choo choo choo, and he like declines the cigarettes. I love that moment so much. Okay, A1X. We're only gonna do one this week. We're gonna keep it simple. Yeah. We're doing A24 Oscar nominees. This was nominated for 6 Oscars. Kind of a big deal. So we've got Ex Machina, Amy, Room, Moonlight, famous A24 Best Picture winner, Lady Bird, The Disaster Artist, The Lobster, The Lighthouse, 20th Century Women, Minari, The Tragedy of Macbeth. That's our short list here.
It's a pretty short list.
It's a pretty short list. But I will say Ex Machina is probably the oldest one on this list, right? I think most of these things are taking place within the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think, that sounds right. I'm pretty sure it is the oldest one on there.
I think so.
It's like one of the earliest movies for sure.
I think so.
I mean, I like Amy a lot. I think it's a great documentary. If people haven't seen it, obviously these things are Oscar nominated, so they're good for a reason. But I'm just going to say it again. I picked it in the draft in the Oscar nom round, so I'm going to take it again here. Minari, I think, is the best A24 Oscar nominee they have. I love Moonlight. Let me clarify that. That is just like one of the best movies ever, in my opinion. But out of this group, I'm going to go with Minari for my A24 Oscar nom. What about you?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I went with Ex Machina for my Oscar nom for the A24 draft. If you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out. It was a couple of weeks ago. It's great. It was a great time. It was really, really fun. Out of this list, I love Minari, and I think Minari will get better the more that I watch it. I knew as soon as the credits rolled, I was like, cool, this is going to age like wine. Like every time I watch this, I'm going to fall more in love with the Yi family. I'm going to fall more in love with the farm. I understand why A24 has all this merch for Minari all the time. Like I get it now. Moonlight's fantastic. I think there's a lot of good ones on here. I'm going with Lady Bird. That's just the one. Nice. That's just like the personal connection. You know, it just like has that extra edge where it's just like, yeah, I really fuck with that movie, and I really like that movie, and like that's the one I'm going with. So you know,
it's so good.
Saoirse Ronan. And a young Timmy Chalamet. We got Lucas Hedges. What the hell has that guy been up to? Who knows?
Yeah, where you at, man? Mid-90s. Come on, Lucas.
Come on, Lucas. Give us some stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Okay. A24 ranking, Ben. A through F. You gave an A plus 24, I believe, to 8th grade last week. I gave an A minus 24. Now we're cooking with fire again here because this is the big leagues for A24, and I feel like it would be a controversial take to give it really anything less than an A24. But I guess we're gonna find out. What are you going with?
We're about to find out. I am. I'm gonna go with a flat A24.
Solid.
I will admit, looking back on it, I think I was riding the high of Bo and everything last week with the A plus. Like I still stand by it, but I think I may have should have just given that an A24 because I feel it's like the same as this. But it's a great movie. Like it's a beautiful movie. I think it's an important movie. And yeah, I think anything below an A again for my Oscar nominee pick in the draft. From fellow Utah Ute, Lee Isaac Chung, I have to go with an A24 for this.
You gotta like tweet at Lee Isaac Chung and just be like, "Yo, we're Utes. Get on the pod."
What's up, man? Yeah, let's do this.
Come on, you're my guy.
Lee, what's up?
Yeah, let's see. So yeah, I went with an A minus 24 for 8th grade. I agree. I still stand by that. I think Bo just hits a special place sometimes. What's the movie I watched? What's the Bo Burnham one I watched?
Make Happy.
I watched it. I thought it was delightful. I thought it was hilarious. Very different. I meant to
ask you about that when we started. Yeah,
very different than Inside. I will say that.
Oh yeah.
There were definitely moments where I was like, okay, this is really good, and then there were other moments where I was like, okay, this is fine. Like I'm vibing with it. The very end though, the auto-tune Kanye West riff had me just keeled over. I was dead. Molly came out. I made Molly come out and watch it with me. She loved it. You sent me a couple Bo clips, and I was just like, I was on it. And then that night, I texted you just so the listeners know exactly what happened. I watched Make Happy, and then I drank 3 beers and continued to dive into watching YouTube clips of every single song on Inside and just belting them while Molly was just on TikTok on her phone next to me. So I lived my best life, and it was fucking phenomenal.
You gotta live stream that next time. Come on, man.
That's, dude, Patreon of the pod right there.
Make it happen.
Let's go. That's the money. I think I'm going with an A24 as well. A solid A24. I think when somebody's looking for a good A24 movie, this is cream of the crop. No pun intended. This is the good stuff right here from A24. It sits in it. It lives and breathes exactly what the movie wants you to do and wants you to feel and wants you, where it wants you to go. I think there's some incredible performances. And I think even without the Oscar nominations and the Oscar win, I think if it didn't have those, it's still very easy to see this is some of the better stuff that A24 has produced. This is co-produced by Plan B, I believe. It is executive produced by Brad Pitt. He has a very keen eye. His production company has a very keen eye for co-producing very good films. So if you're ever, if you ever see like a Plan B logo before something, just know Brad Pitt is part of that and he finds really good shit. So there's that. A24. I think this is a great movie. I'm glad we finally covered it on the pod, Ben. This is great.
Me too. Honestly, you got my mind wandering too because you just talked about La La Land and now Brad Pitt. I mean, Babylon, dude. Damien Chazelle.
Fucking Babylon. Let's go.
Coming out. And then you talked about Lady Bird. I'm like, I'm ready for Barbie, dude. I wish that was an A24 movie. I want to cover that. And I'm really happy that the people chose this one for us to watch. I think if I had to pick like a word for this movie, it's beautiful. But, it's like it's beautiful performances, it's beautiful storytelling, beautiful like just the visuals, cinematography, like everything about it is beautiful. I don't know who listens to this and hasn't seen the movie we're talking about, but if you happen to fall into that, I feel like this is just a super high recommend from both of us.
Hard
it's like
recommend.
It's a A24 from both of us. So please check it out. I know it's on like Showtime and some other places. Or if you want access to my voodoo, hit me up, slide the DMs. But let us know what you thought about Minari. Let us know what else you want us to cover on the pod. Like we are always open to people's suggestions. You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, 24 minutes of A24. You can watch us talk about stuff rather than just listen to us, get like 2 of the senses going.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's fun.
Shout out Vibe Kellerman who tweets at us all the time. Tweeted us a picture of her watching us on her large TV. And I showed it to my wife and I was like, look, someone that I've never met before has my face and Ben's face plastered on their TV watching my podcast.
I love it.
And I was kind of freaking out. So shout out Vibe. This is incredible stuff to see. It's wonderful. Tweet us. If you listen to us, you should like tag us and tweet us because
Yeah,
we
please.
love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I
boosts
love
my
it at
ego.
least. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. No, honestly, like it's so interesting. I mean, before you wrap up here, we did the draft. You played that clip of like what I picked and your reaction. And it just like, it meant so much to me that so many people that listened to this show like had opinions on what it was I took because
I know.
like, they've
That was
listened
so
to us
funny.
and they know our, our taste and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, from the bottom of both of our hearts, I'm going to speak for Ethan here, but like, thank
Truly.
you so much, everyone, for your support. We love when you guys tag us on Twitter or IG, whatever. Like, we love to interact with everybody. So, thank you again for the support. Please continue to do it. Spread the word if you can.
Exciting things coming in 2023. Stay tuned to the pod, subscribe, all that jazz.
For sure.
It's getting good. We're having a really cool guest on, and not to maybe say too much, but we're having lots of very cool guests on in the near future that we are very excited about. So it means a lot to us. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks again, everyone, for the support. This is 24 Minutes of A24. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I've been Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.